The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched endlessly into the cosmic void, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Captain Marcus Stone stood alone at the center of the vast chamber, his simple human uniform, looking painfully modest among the elaborate regalia of dozens of alien species. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on his shoulders as he clutched the formal application for Earth's membership in the Galactic Coalition. Around him, beings of incredible diversity filled the floating observation pods. The elegant Etherians with their translucent skin glowed softly in their seats, while the massive Chronothi delegates rumbled deep conversations through their stone-like exteriors. Insectoid hive minds chittered in perfect unison, and the serpentine Nixtar coiled gracefully around their specialized perches. Each species represented centuries or millennia of galactic civilization. Ambassador Vexthul of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his ornate throne, his forearms spreading wide in what might have been a welcoming gesture if not for the cruel gleam in his compound eyes. His voice carried across the chamber with the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "So," Vexthul began, his words dripping with barely concealed amusement, "the primitive mammals from the third planet of Sol system believe they deserve a seat among the civilized races of the galaxy." Laughter rippled through the assembly, not the cruel, mocking laughter Marcus had expected, but something worse, the indulgent chuckling reserved for children who had said something unexpectedly cute. The Etherian delegates' musical tones tinkled like wind chimes, while the Chronothi's amusement sounded like boulders grinding together. Marcus straightened his spine, drawing upon every ounce of military discipline he possessed. "Honorable delegates, humanity has achieved faster-than-light travel, established colonies on 17 worlds, and successfully made contact with your civilizations. We believe we have earned the right to—" "Earned?" Vexthul interrupted, his secondary arms gesturing dismissively. "Young species, you have barely crawled from your gravity well. Your ships are crude metal boxes held together with primitive chemical bonds. Your weapons are laughably outdated projectile systems. Your lifespan barely exceeds a single Zephyrian molting cycle." The hive mind delegate spoke in perfect unison, thousands of voices creating an eerie harmony. "Humans possess no psychic abilities, no energy manipulation, no quantum consciousness. What could such limited beings possibly contribute to our ancient coalition?" Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks but kept his voice steady. "We offer our perspective, our determination, and our willingness to learn and contribute to galactic peace." This statement triggered fresh waves of amusement. A delegate from the crystalline Vorthon collective chimed in, their voice like singing crystal. "Determination? How quaint, as if willpower could substitute for evolution." Vexthul leaned forward, his expression shifting from amusement to something approaching pity. "Little humans, return to your small worlds and your small dreams. Perhaps in a few thousand years, when you have evolved beyond your current limitations, we might reconsider. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, filled with forces that would crush your fragile species without effort." The chamber fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the station's systems. Marcus looked around at the assembled beings, each representing civilizations that spanned multiple star systems. They had technologies that seemed like magic, lifespans that dwarfed human history, and powers that defied human understanding. Yet as he prepared to speak, Marcus remembered something his grandfather had told him about humanity's greatest wars. "It's not the size of the dog in the fight," the old man had said. "It's the size of the fight in the dog." "We understand your decision," Marcus said finally, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "But I think you underestimate what humans are capable of when we're pushed too far." Vexthul's compound eyes glittered with what might have been genuine curiosity for the first time. "And what exactly do you think you're capable of, little human?" Marcus met the alien's gaze without flinching. "Surviving." 3 months after the humiliating rejection at the Galactic Council, the first test of human resolve came not from diplomacy, but from violence. The agricultural colony of New Geneva, nestled in the fertile valleys of Kepler 442b, had been humanity's pride for nearly a decade. Its golden wheat field stretched to the horizon, feeding 3 other human settlements across the sector. Lieutenant Zara Phoenix had been enjoying her morning coffee when the proximity alarms began screaming across the colony's communication network. She rushed to the defense center, her combat boots echoing through the corridors as colonists scrambled for emergency shelters. The tactical display showed what every human in the outer colonies had feared: ships approaching at impossible speeds, their energy signatures unlike anything in human databases. "Ma'am, we're reading 12 vessels in attack formation," reported Corporal Jake Morrison, his voice tight with controlled panic. "They're broadcasting some kind of message on all frequencies." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a grotesque, alien face that seemed to be mostly teeth and scars. The creature's voice was a guttural snarl that the translation software struggled to process. "Weak humans of the dirt world, you have trespassed in space claimed by the Ravager Brotherhood. Your pathetic species was refused entry to the Galactic Coalition, which means you have no protection under galactic law. Surrender your goods and your lives, and we will make your deaths swift." Zara felt ice in her veins, but her training kicked in immediately. New Geneva's defenses consisted of 3 orbital platforms, each armed with railguns and missile systems that were considered cutting-edge by human standards. Against alien technology, they seemed woefully inadequate. "All civilians to underground. Shelters immediately," she ordered. "Defense platforms, target the lead vessels and prepare to fire on my command." The Ravager ships moved with predatory grace, their hulls gleaming with an oily iridescence that suggested advanced materials far beyond human manufacturing capability. They approached the colony without any apparent concern for the defensive installations, as if they were nothing more than minor inconveniences. "Lieutenant, they're not even raising shields," Morrison observed, his confusion evident. "It's like they don't consider us a threat at all." Zara's jaw tightened. The alien's dismissal reminded her painfully of the Council's reaction to Captain Stone's diplomatic mission. These creatures, like the so-called civilized species, saw humans as nothing more than amusing primitives. "Maybe that's their first mistake," she muttered. "All platforms, fire everything we have." The orbital defense platforms erupted in coordinated fury. Railgun slugs accelerated to significant fractions of light speed while dozens of missiles streaked toward the alien formation. The Ravagers' casual approach suddenly became frantic maneuvering as they realized the humans' weapons, while primitive, carried devastating kinetic energy. 2 alien ships took direct hits from the railgun batteries, their advanced hulls designed to deflect energy weapons and exotic particles, proved surprisingly vulnerable to simple mass traveling at extreme velocity. One vessel began venting atmosphere and debris, while another spun out of control, its propulsion systems damaged. "Impossible," came the snarl from the lead Ravager ship. "Your weapons should not be able to penetrate our armor." Zara allowed herself a grim smile. "Corporal Morrison, send a message to all human colonies in the sector. Tell them the Ravager Brotherhood underestimated human engineering." The remaining alien ships regrouped, their casual arrogance replaced by wary respect. They began employing proper tactical formations, treating the human defenses as a legitimate threat rather than a mere obstacle. The battle that followed lasted 6 brutal hours, with both sides taking heavy casualties. But as the last Ravager ship limped away into hyperspace, leaving 4 of their vessels destroyed in New Geneva's orbit, a message spread across the galactic communication networks. The primitive humans, dismissed as harmless by the Galactic Council, had just handed a notorious pirate fleet their first major defeat in decades. Zara watched the alien retreat through the defense center's viewports, her uniform torn and her face streaked with smoke. Around her, exhausted human defenders cheered their victory, but she knew this was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, other predators were taking notice, and they were no longer laughing. News of the New Geneva victory spread through the galaxy's communication networks like wildfire. In cantinas on distant space stations, traders whispered about the primitive humans who had destroyed Ravager warships with crude kinetic weapons. On the homeworlds of established civilizations, military analysts studied the battle recordings with growing unease. Engineer Thomas Vega worked deep in the underground laboratories of Luna Station, surrounded by twisted, Alien metal and exotic components salvaged from the destroyed Ravager vessels. For weeks he had been reverse engineering their technology, his human curiosity driving him to understand every circuit and power coupling. What he discovered changed everything. "Director Walsh, you need to see this immediately," Thomas called. Across the research bay, his voice barely containing his excitement. The portly research director hurried over, adjusting his thick glasses as he peered at Thomas's workstation. "What am I looking at, Vega?" Walsh asked, studying the holographic display that showed intricate alien engineering schematics. Thomas pointed to a series of energy conduits that pulsed with soft blue light. "The Ravager's shield generators operate on quantum field manipulation, but they have a fatal flaw. They're designed specifically to deflect energy-based attacks and exotic particle weapons. Their programmers never considered the possibility of facing pure kinetic force." Walsh's eyes widened as the implications sank in. "You're saying their defenses are useless against projectile weapons?" "Not just useless," Thomas grinned, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "I've been running simulations. If we modify our railgun technology with these alien power cores, we can achieve muzzle velocities that would make our current weapons look like toys." The aliens built their entire military doctrine around energy shields and plasma weapons. They've forgotten the basic physics of mass times velocity. Across the solar system, similar revelations were occurring in research facilities on Mars, Europa, and the asteroid mining stations. Human engineers, unbound by thousands of years of established galactic military thinking, were finding innovative ways to combine alien technology with human ingenuity. Meanwhile, in the crystalline halls of the Krillian Empire's War Council, a very different conversation was taking place. Emperor Zarkoth, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's bioluminescent lighting, listened to his military advisors with growing irritation. "The humans defeated a full Ravager squadron," reported General Krixtall, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Their primitive weapons somehow penetrated our allies' defenses." Emperor Zarkoth's 4 eyes focused intently on the tactical display. The Krillian Empire had dominated this sector of the galaxy for 3 millennia, their advanced bioships and plasma artillery making them nearly invincible in conventional warfare. The idea that a species barely out of their home system could pose any threat was almost insulting. "A lucky victory against pirates proves nothing," the Emperor declared, his voice resonating through the chamber like thunder. "The humans must be taught their proper place in the galactic hierarchy before they become too bold. Assemble the 5th Fleet." General Krixtall's antennae twitched with concern. "My lord, the 5th Fleet consists of 200 warships. Surely, that is excessive force against a species with fewer than 30 vessels?" The Emperor's compound eyes glittered with cold calculation. "When teaching a lesson, General, it is important to be thorough. The other primitive species in this sector are watching. If we allow the humans to believe they can challenge established powers, others might follow their example." Back on Earth, in the cramped confines of the Solar Defense Command Center, Admiral Patricia Kane received the intelligence reports with a mixture of fear and determination. The long-range sensors had detected massive energy signatures gathering in the Krillian system, far more than any human fleet could hope to match. "Ma'am, the projections show they're assembling enough firepower to glass every human colony simultaneously," reported Commander Devon Cross, his face pale as he studied the tactical estimates. Admiral Kane stood silently for a long moment, watching Earth turn slowly through the command center's massive viewport. Somewhere out there among the stars, an alien armada was preparing to demonstrate humanity's insignificance. The civilized galaxy expected the humans to surrender or flee. "Commander Cross," she said finally, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they faced, "send word to every human ship, every colony, every mining station. Tell them what's coming." "And our response, Admiral?" Kane turned from the viewport, her expression hardening into something that would have looked familiar to every human warrior throughout history. From ancient battlefields to the trenches of forgotten wars, we fight. The Battle of Titan's Gate would be remembered as the moment humanity's true nature was revealed to the galaxy. General Rebecca Storm stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's flagship, watching as 200 Krillian warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Their bioorganic hulls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and their plasma weapons charged with energy that could reduce planets to molten slag. Against this terrifying armada, humanity had managed to gather 63 ships, mining vessels, hastily fitted with weapons, cargo haulers converted to missile platforms, and every military ship in the human fleet. They were outnumbered more than 3-1 by an enemy with superior technology, superior firepower, and 3,000 years of military experience. "General, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Captain Felix Rodriguez from the communication station. "The Emperor is demanding our immediate surrender." Rebecca looked at the tactical display showing the overwhelming alien force. Any rational military commander would have ordered a retreat, preserved what forces they could, and hoped for better terms. But as she stared at those enemy ships, she thought about every human colony that would burn if they failed here. "Open a channel to all human vessels," she ordered, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had made peace with death. "This is General Storm. Today the galaxy expects us to kneel. They expect us to beg for mercy from beings who see us as nothing more than clever animals." The Krillian fleet began advancing in textbook formation, their bioships moving with predatory grace. Energy readings spiked as their plasma cannons prepared to demonstrate the futility of human resistance. But they made one critical mistake, Rebecca continued, her words reaching every human crew member in the fleet. "They forgot that when you corner a dangerous animal, it doesn't surrender. It bites back." The first exchange of fire lit up the void between Jupiter and Saturn. Krillian plasma beams lanced through space, their energy weapons designed to overwhelm shields and vaporize armor. Several human ships took direct hits, their hulls glowing white-hot before exploding in brilliant fireballs. But the return volley caught the aliens completely off guard. The modified railguns, enhanced with salvaged alien power cores, fired projectiles at velocities that defied Krillian military doctrine. Tungsten slugs, accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, punched through bioship hulls like they were made of paper. "Impossible," came the transmission from the Krillian flagship. "Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our organic armor." Thomas Vega's modifications had worked perfectly. The alien bioships evolved to resist energy attacks and regenerate. Damage from plasma weapons had no defense against simple kinetic force delivered at relativistic speeds. 3 Krillian vessels died in the opening salvo, their bioluminescent patterns flickering out forever. But the aliens adapted quickly. They spread their formation, used their superior speed to avoid the human weapons firing solutions, and began coordinated attacks that picked off human ships one by one. The battle became a deadly game of cat and mouse among the asteroid fields and gas giant moons. That's when Rebecca Storm showed the galaxy what human tactical thinking could accomplish. Instead of fighting the conventional battle the Krillians expected, she ordered her fleet to break formation completely. Human ships scattered throughout the Saturnian system, using the planet's rings and moons as cover, turning the engagement into a 3-dimensional nightmare of ambushes and surprise attacks. Mining ships emerged from asteroid shadows to deliver devastating railgun strikes before vanishing again. Cargo vessels, their holds packed with missile launchers, appeared behind Krillian formations and unleashed swarms of projectiles. The human fleet fought like wolves, using pack tactics that the rigid Krillian military hierarchy couldn't counter. "They fight without honor," Emperor Zarkoth raged from his command throne. "No formation, no discipline, no proper military conduct." But General Crystal was beginning to understand the terrifying truth. "My lord, they are not fighting like a military force. They are fighting like survivors." The tide turned when Rebecca executed the most audacious maneuver in human military history. She ordered the Defiance on a direct collision course with the Krillian flagship, her railguns firing continuously as point defense systems tried desperately to stop the incoming slugs. The aliens, certain that no rational commander would sacrifice their flagship in a suicide attack, maintained formation until the last possible moment. When they finally realized Rebecca's intention, it was too late. The Defiance rammed through the enemy flagship's biohull, her dying guns still firing as both ships died together in nuclear fire. The death of their flagship and their emperor broke the Krillian fleet's morale. Faced with an enemy that seemed willing to die rather than submit, the surviving alien ships began a fighting retreat that became a full rout. 6 months after the Battle of Titan's Gate, Captain Marcus Stone once again stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. But everything had changed. Where once alien delegates had lounged in casual dismissal, now they sat rigid with attention. The floating observation pods maintained respectful distances, and conversations were conducted in hushed, careful tones. The wreckage of the Krillian Fifth Fleet had been discovered by salvage crews 3 weeks after the battle. 147 alien warships destroyed or disabled by a human force a third their size. The news had sent shockwaves through every established power in the galaxy. The primitive mammals had not just survived, they had won. Ambassador Vexthul of the Zephyrian Empire no longer displayed his previous arrogance. His 4 arms remained folded respectfully as he addressed the human captain. Captain Stone, the Galactic Council wishes to formally acknowledge humanity's unexpected capabilities. Marcus stood at attention, wearing the same simple uniform he had worn months earlier, but now it seemed less modest and more practical, the garb of a species that valued function over ceremony. Behind him, holographic displays showed real-time footage of human shipyards working at maximum capacity, producing vessels that incorporated both human engineering and salvaged alien technology. The Council recognizes, continued the Etherean delegate, her musical voice subdued, that our previous assessment of human potential was incomplete. A ripple of nervous agreement passed through the assembly. The hive-mind delegate spoke in their eerie unison, but their tone lacked the dismissive superiority of before. We have analyzed the tactical recordings from Titan's Gate. Human combat doctrine appears to prioritize survival over honor, victory over tradition. Marcus nodded slowly. We fight to protect what we love, not to satisfy ancient codes of warfare. The crystalline Vorthan collective chimed in, their voice carrying undertones of genuine curiosity rather than condescension. Your species demonstrated a willingness to sacrifice individual units for strategic advantage. This behavior pattern is disturbing to established military thinking. It's called covering your friends, Marcus replied simply. We don't leave our people behind, and we don't quit when the odds look bad. Emperor Zarkoth's replacement, Regent Vexnin, spoke from the Krillian Empire's diminished delegation. The new leader's voice carried none of his predecessors' threatening authority. The destruction of our Fifth Fleet has forced a complete re-evaluation of human capabilities. Your species has proven that technological superiority does not guarantee victory. Marcus felt the weight of history in that moment. Every human who had ever been underestimated, every time his species had been written off as too weak or too primitive, was being vindicated in this chamber. The Galactic Council hereby extends full membership to the human species, announced Vexthul, his words carrying across the silent hall, with all rights, privileges, and protections thereof. But Marcus raised his hand, causing murmurs of confusion throughout the assembly. With respect, honored delegates, we're not the same species that applied for membership 6 months ago. The aliens exchanged uncertain glances. What did the human mean? Marcus continued, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had seen his people tested and not found wanting. When we first came here, we wanted to join your community as junior partners. We wanted to learn from your wisdom and benefit from your protection. He gestured toward the tactical displays still showing human military production. But we've learned something important. We don't need your protection. Our primitive weapons work just fine. Our crude tactics win battles. Our limited thinking finds solutions you never considered. The chamber fell completely silent except for the hum of the station's systems. So here's our counteroffer, Marcus said, his words carrying the authority of a species that had earned its place through fire and blood. We'll join your Galactic Council as equal members, not supplicants. We'll contribute our perspective, our technology, and our determination to the common good, but we'll do it as partners, not pets. The delegates looked at each other with expressions ranging from shock to grudging respect. The humans were no longer asking for permission to join the galactic community. They were announcing their arrival. Ambassador Vexthul spoke for the entire assembly when he said, "Motion accepted. Welcome to the galaxy, humanity." As Marcus left the chamber, he smiled at the thought of General Storm and all the humans who had died at Titan's Gate. They had laughed at humanity's fury, right up until humanity were the last ones standing.